We're always like on the brink of life and death on this show. We're reading the scripts on the plane, like as we were flying, being like, yikes, I'm above the same ocean. Like, is something weird gonna happen? It was like summer camp for a kid because I was 17 when I started, Man, I'd have to know what the smoke monster was. I'd have to try and see if the responder worked at the top of the mountain. Good questions.
Once and always.
Hi Tanya, my name is Chris and I'm a YouTuber from the Philippines. As a huge Lost fan, it's really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
The first season of Lost aired when I was a junior in college, and to get to chat with you 20 years later about one of my favorite shows is just mind-blowing to me, so thank you so much for this.
Of course. I can't believe it's been 20 years. It's crazy.
As an actor, you've experienced the show in a completely different way than us, the audience, since you got to live it. But I'm curious, did you follow the show weekly when it was airing?
I mean, obviously, I knew what Lost was, but I started at the end of season 2. So it was a huge phenomenon, but it had just started. So the first season had just aired. I think the first time I had seen it was a scene with Sun and Jin, I think. And I'm like, what is this show with Korean subtitles? This is not something I've seen on like network TV before. But I knew it shot in Hawaii, and I knew that there was a lot of mysticism in it and magic, which I really like because there was a polar bear in it somehow was the last thing I heard about it. So it wasn't really until I started working on the show and getting really into the mysticism of of all the theories and stuff, that I would follow along, like kind of as we were shooting.
Did it surprise you that this show still had a huge impact with people 20 years later?
Watching this documentary for the first time was like incredibly moving. There were people who met on fan communities the first year of the show online that like continued to meet every single year. People got married from being fans, being Lost fans. And I got to meet some of the fans at the premiere in LA, and people were showing me their props that they had like bought at auction. Somebody brought in a piece of the fuselage from the pilot that we signed. I felt very honored to be part of a show that meant something for so many people, and it's incredible to see so many years later that it still has an impact,
For a show that was a bit intense, I would like to think that the filming of it was pretty fun and full of laughs. Were there any, bloopers or an experience that just made you all burst out with laughter while filming?
It's tough because it was such an intense show. We're always like on the brink of life and death on this show, and my character was sort of your typical kind of angry teenager. So I wasn't like a barrel of laughs, but I mean, there were so many things. Josh Holloway was such a jokester just in general. I remember he was the kind of guy that could make everybody laugh and make a really tense situation just fun because he had nicknames for everybody. I remember Evangeline in between takes, we would yell cut and she would like climb all the way up to the top of like a coconut tree and climb all the way back down with a coconut and give it to someone. It was like summer camp for a kid because I was 17 when I started, I'd never been to Hawaii. It was my first time. It didn't feel like a job. It felt like it was real. The whole thing was exciting for me.
If you were one of the survivors of Oceanic 815,
Yeah.
how would you choose to live your life on the island? Would you want to be part of the main group and have all these adventures? Or would you want to just stay in the beach and, mind your own business?
I would have to get over the fact that I probably wasn't going to be rescued anytime soon. And once I came to terms with that, I would want to be I would want to get in on the action. I'd have to know what the smoke monster was. I'd have to try and see if the responder worked at the top of the mountain. Like I'd have to figure out what was in the hatch. Like I would need to know. It would drive me crazy to just sit on the beach and do what? Like just wait and then till they came back and told me what happened. The scariest part of Lost, if it were real for me, was that I'm terrified of flying. I would be watching old episodes to like get caught up or reading the scripts on the plane, like as we were flying, and I would fly back and forth from LA all the time. And like often I'd be watching like the reenactment scenes of the crash being like, yikes, I'm above the same ocean. Like, is something weird going to happen? But no, I have a spirit of adventure. I think I'd go looking for help for sure.
What do you think Alex would be listening to during her free time in Dharmaville? If she even had free time, what bands or artists do you think would be on her rotation?
Good question. God, I wonder, did she have access to like modern stuff, or was she just listening to like old timey music?
If we're following the canon of the show, I'm guessing that the medium of choice would be vinyl records.
I feel like Ben is like an old school jazz standard guy. Crooner stuff like Sinatra and stuff like that. She probably had that in the house. But I think Alex had a little bit more punk rock in her. I think in modern day times, like she'd be more into, I don't know, Blink 182 or maybe some pop 80s like Duran Duran or whatever was playing in that crazy mind control scene where we go and rescue my boyfriend, Carl. They're playing some creepy music in the background. Maybe whatever that was. But no, I don't think she's an old school girl. I think she's more punk rock than that.
Aside from Alex, who was your favorite character on the show and why?
I love Charlie. Charlie's death scene, not Penny's boat, that whole sequence to me, it's such a beautiful piece of filmmaking, like all together anyway. And Dominic Monaghan, I met him a couple times. He was such a nice guy. I think he's like the first guy I met, like coming off of the plane for the first time. And I looked like super lost as a kid. And he's like, "Do you need something?" And I'm like, "I'm fine, thank you." He was a really cool guy. And I loved his character. Like it broke my heart the way that he died.
When I knew I had the chance to interview you, I watched the first season of Goliath on Prime, and it was so good. Like, I'm very much looking forward to binging the next 3 seasons for sure.
Thank you.
With all the projects you got to be a part of throughout your career, was there something you learned in your experience filming Lost that you still bring with you to every role you play and film set you're in?
Yes, like I don't anticipate what happens next ever. And that's because like on Lost, a lot of times we had no idea what would be the next episode. We didn't know if we were going to die in the next script. Like scripts were messengered to our house in like unmarked envelopes. Like sometimes we'd only even get portions of scenes when we were shooting the finale. So like it was very secretive, very hush hush. And because I did it for so many years, I got used to just kind of not knowing. It was a lesson in like in letting go and not anticipating the future and just going with the flow, you know?
If you had the chance to time travel as an adult, whether back to the past or into the future, and grow old there, would you do it? And if yes, what time period would you choose?
Man, I mean, did you hear about this comet that just came into orbit?
Oh no.
The last time this comet was in orbit and visible from the planet was at the time of the Neanderthals. And so I went to the beach to go see this comet because you could see it at the beach in LA because we're in the most western part of the country. And I thought, wow, what was that like? Like when those Neanderthals were looking up at the sky, wondering like, what is that? So, I mean, it'd be cool to go backwards in time to see that. I certainly wouldn't want to like grow old in that time period. I'm also superstitious, very superstitious. So I think I'm just going to stay exactly where I am right here and just hope for the best because you can't predict the future and you certainly can't change the past.
So there, that's it. Thank you so much for your time. This has been such a pleasure, and I'm just trying to contain my geekiness because Lost, it was really a really big impact for me because yeah, when I was in college, prior to watching Lost, I was just watching sitcoms, easy light stuff. But Lost was the first serialized television show that was like every week, man, I need to know what happens next. So after watching Lost, that's when I started to really get into other shows. So Lost was like my phase one when it comes to television and entertainment. So thank you so much for your time, and yeah, this was awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It meant as much to me as it does to you, certainly. Like it's the show that has been the most impactful in my life, and I will never ever forget it.